Today I'm going to be sharing with you 4 pairs of joggers. 2 are for men, 2 are for women, and also how to sew 2 types of pockets. One of them includes a zipper, and also I'm going to be sharing with you how paper can be your friend in an unconventional way to help your sewing. So keep watching. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina. This is Lifting Pins and Needles, a channel all about sewing, limitless sewing. Welcome back if you're always stopping by, and if you're new to the channel and you love to sew, you will see a lot of that here, because with every single video I always aim to have practical sewing tips for you to take home for your own sewing. While you're watching, if you find the content useful for you, you might consider subscribing to this channel by tapping on the screen, or wherever you are, tapping on the bell as well, so you get notified when a new video goes live and you don't miss out. I'm filming inside today. My preference is to be outside. I think it's nicer, but it's pouring rain out there. I hope the rain stops, hopefully, so I can get footage outside of me wearing the garments. Otherwise, it'll just have to be in here. A few weeks ago, I made 2 joggers, one for my son, one for myself, and they were the Hudson pants by True Bias. And whilst this project was hugely successful for my son, he hasn't stopped wearing them. For me, they were a huge fail. I had an issue with a very low rise that doesn't suit my body shape. At that point, I decided I needed to try another pattern company, another brand, to see if I could find a jogger pattern that would suit me, that I would love to make for myself, because I am in need for this type of garment. I do get up at dawn and go for an hour walk, and I don't really need tights for that, or tight fitting clothing, because it's just fast walking, you know, and I feel more comfortable in a pair of joggers. So I really need some. So I went with GreenStyle Creations. This is a pattern company that has mainly activewear, although there is also a large range of patterns that aren't activewear, but mainly activewear. And I chose 2 joggers there that are sort of equivalent to each other. One is the men's version, the iron joggers, and the other one is the woman's version, the Brassie joggers. When you look at the line art for both of these, they are very similar. They have very similar features. They all have different inseams, so you have options to make shorts and all sorts of lengths, options for cuffs on the ankles or not, a waistband with a 2-inch elastic and a drawstring, and then options for pockets, either a slant pocket or a zipper pocket. Now the zipper pocket is what got me, because I know my son is into zippers. The iron joggers for men are drafted for 5'10". They have different inseam options for shorts and leg lengths, 5, 7, 9, 11. Those are the lengths for the shorts. My son wanted 12 inches, and for the legs is different, like cropped, lots and lots. What I did was just measure his Hudson pants that had a good length, compare that pattern to this one and choose a length there, and then add a little bit more, like an inch, just for growing space, you know. The size charts give you body measurements but no finished garment measurements, so I decided to trust the pattern and just go with it. So for my son, I made a size M and then tapered in at the hips and the legs to a size small, considering my son likes slim fitting stuff. Now the Brassie joggers for women look really similar to the iron joggers for men. They have sort of the same features, you know. They also have different lengths in the legs, and the full inseam is 32 inches. That's the longest it goes. And what's cool about this one is that it has separate files for low rise, mid rise and high rise at the waist. I decided to sew up the high rise to see how it went. You know, you can always lower it. Now in the chart, there's no finished garment measurements. As I mentioned, the same with the iron joggers, just body measurements. And I went with the size they recommended there. For my body, I fall into an extra large for this brand. I chose a length that was shorter than the capri length. That meant I had to adjust the cuff and make it a little bit wider to fit my calf. I prefer the length that I chose. That's just what I like aesthetically, you know. So from the line provided there, I just cut maybe 2 inches shorter than that. That meant that because the leg tapers in like that, at the section I cut was a little bit wider, just a little bit, so I made the cuff a little bit wider as well. Both of these patterns recommend knits that are at least 25% stretch activewear fabric, and if your fabric does only have 25% stretch, they recommend using a different one for the cuffs, and for the waistband that has 50%. I tested the fabric I used for all the joggers at about 50%, except for the shorts I made my son. I would say those had about 30% stretch. In Up Close and So Personal, I'm going to be sharing how to sew the zipper pockets that I did for my son's long pants and shorts. I ended up sewing 3 of these types of pockets, and I'm also going to be showing you how to sew the slant pocket, which is much simpler to construct. Both of these pockets had me grabbing for paper while sewing for different reasons, and I'm sharing all that with you now. This is one of the front legs. These are 2 pocket pieces that I cut out of woven, just a rayon twill, and 2 pocket pieces that are actually 4. I've got them there in 2 layers just to make it heavier because this is only a rayon spandex, and my son is planning to put his phone in his pockets and things, so I think this is thicker and will hold the weight better, but I'm treating this just as one piece there. On the wrong side of the fabric and guiding myself on the mark for the pocket, I have fused a strip of interfacing there, so that's ready to go to stabilize the area. Now I'm going to put one of the pocket pieces on top, the rayon one. So this light woven one can be any light woven fabric here. I would rather do it in a matching one so it'll just look better. That's on top there. And instead of marking the rectangle with a marking tool that's not going to give me precision to mark on black, I just created a template from the pocket piece. I just copied it onto another paper, and I'm going to put it right on top there, and I'm going to hand baste around here to hold it in place. Just crazy hand basting there. I'm going to sew right on top of this paper that has a rectangle drawn with pen, very exact, so I have really exact points to stop and pivot. And once I've sewn this rectangle, then I can just rip off the paper and then trim in there and do all the other bits and bobs. I also wanted to make sure that the zippers I had were going to fit this rectangle that is given as a reference, and of course I had to trim my zipper because the ones I had were too long, and so the zipper stop should start around there when this has been done, and I've left some excess there to trim off later. But I'm thinking of doing a tiny little piece of fabric to put underneath there to cover that zipper stop at a later stage so that it's not visible. So I have one side here, you can clearly see the rectangle I'm going to sew. I've just done a bit of hand basting to keep it in place. So I have the paper, the pocket made out of light woven piece, and then the front leg of the joggers, that's athletic wear fabric. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew that rectangle there on both sides. I'm going to start anywhere in this rectangle around the middle. I have my stretch needle number 14 or 90. I'm going to use a very tiny stitch length, 1.5, and I'm just doing a straight stitch all around this rectangle on top of the paper. Now I'm going to get to that point and I'm going to stop right there and pivot. Having these hand basting stitches here is really comfortable because I'm not dealing with pins or anything. So I've got both of these done. I'm just going to rip out these basting stitches. They don't need to be here anymore. I've cut excess paper off there. I'm just going to fold these in half and then just do a little cut in the middle here. I'm leaving this because it's easier to see what I'm doing when the paper is white. If I remove the paper, I'm just going to have black everywhere and it's just harder to see. And now I'm just going to slice through this through the middle, stop about 3/8 short of the edge there, and then clip into the corners, not through but up to it. There, and on the other side too. So I've got that thing going on there. Like this paper wants to come off, it doesn't want to stay in there, and because I've done such tiny stitches, stitch length, it doesn't really get caught between the stitch. So that's all the paper gone on this one there. And now this pocket piece that was cut with woven, that was sewn onto the main leg, is going to be flipped towards the other side. If I find that this needs to be more precise, I might do a little clip, like 1 more millimeter. This is the wrong side, and you can see that strip of interfacing here that I fused on. All the stitching of this rectangle was done on top of that, and there's a little bit left over to the side, so that stabilizes that area. And when I flip it over here, I have this pocket piece that's made out of lightweight wovens, and I'm going to flip this over to the wrong side. And you can already sort of see that little rectangle forming there. So I'm going to have a fiddle here and press this. I'm going to press these seams open here, these little ones, and I know that black is a terrible color, but it's the only one my son will wear for joggers. So I've pressed that seam open, and now I'm going to press this one here. They're very, very narrow, like 1/4 of an inch sort of thing. So there you can see the little space already forming. On the right side, it's going to look like that, and that is where the zipper is going to go. So this zipper is going to go behind this right there, and that needs to be placed really carefully, you know, right in the middle and everything, and then top stitched on like that. I've got one rectangle here from one of the legs, and I've cut these little pieces of the same athletic wear, 2 inches by 1 inch, and I'm going to fold this in half, wrong sides together, and I'm going to put this right there at the bottom so it peeps out a little bit on top of the edge of that rectangle. And what that's going to do is cover the zipper stop, this metal business there that I think is not nice for it to be shown there. So I'm just going to hold that little piece of fabric there so it's not moving, and then I'm going to put my zipper there behind, and now my zipper stop is behind this. So if I pull this up, you can see it's covered in there with this little thing. And now I did not invent this. I have seen this in ready to wear, and I always thought I wanted to try that if I did a zipper pocket like this, and this is a chance. So tiny little bit there, it's not going to affect anything. I'm going to place this on there properly and then top stitch all the way around the rectangles there, just with a straight stitch, just being really careful. And I'll be using the edge foot for that so that it's nice and straight. On one of the sides, I went the traditional way and just basted everything around by hand. So I've got the zipper positioned in the middle there. Zipper stop is right there behind that little piece of fabric I added. And because I trimmed my zipper here on the top, I just did some tacking there to hold this together so they don't flop open. And then with the edge foot, I would go ahead and sew this down. For the other side, I have put my little piece of fabric there at the bottom, and I'm going to attempt to use Wonder Tape. So I've stuck some Wonder Tape on the edges of the zipper there really well. And then this is the first time I'm using this. I believe this paper peels off like that. And then this side also sticks. So I'm going to attempt to place this really well on the center and see how that works. So I can see this is a bit fiddly. Here I have to make sure that the zipper pull is lower here and that it reaches where this starts here. So that is supposed to be stuck on there, and we shall see how that works. I am still going to do some tacking there by hand to hold this together so at the top it's neat. and I'll see how it goes and what I like best, the good old-fashioned hand basting or the wonder tape. I have my edge foot there, my needle to the left, and this is going to allow me to do a nice and straight stitch all the way around. This is the one I've hand basted that I'm going to attempt first. Here it's a bit bulky where I put that extra fabric to cover the metal zipper stop. I prefer to hand crank this. Oh, this is annoying. Okay, I'm gonna have to raise the needle, get out of here, pull this thing down and get back in here and then start sewing again. I have the two zippers sewn on. This is the one I did with the hand basting, and this is the one with the wonder tape. You can see a little bit of it peeping through there. I have to admit this one was easier. It felt nicer to sew. I felt like it was really stuck on and secure and it wasn't moving anywhere. I think this one was still moving a little bit. They are both functional, they work. Zipper stop is covered by that fabric, and here is the other side. Now that I've got the wrong sides facing up, all I need to do is grab my pocket piece and place it on top there, match it because they're the same size. It's actually the same pattern piece that is used. Match it there and then sew the two pocket pieces together around there. Serge and then baste onto the top and baste onto the side to keep it secure, and then I can just continue assembling the pants. That is the same as any other jogger. The funny thing is when he opens his pocket, there's going to be that inside, and it'll only be visible if he opens his pocket. And I asked him if he was okay with that. He said he was fine with it. So a little bit of that crazy fabric under there. So I've sewn all the pocket layers together. I've just serged the edges first. I think that's easier. So I've got my woven piece there, and now I've got two layers of the colorful one just to make it thicker and have more strength to fit the things that my son wants to put in here that are quite bulky. This is just rayon spandex. So I've got them wrong sides together and I'm just treating this as one piece. I've done a normal stitch here because actually the layer underneath this pocket is woven, so it doesn't need to stretch. If two layers were out of knit, then you'd need a zigzag stitch, but this woven layer is not going to let the pocket stretch anyway, so that's how it is. It's going to be a nice firm pocket. So the sides there have just been pinned together and here through all the layers there, and I'm just going to do a basting stitch on the edge here. Repeat on the other side, and then I can continue with the pants as per usual. This is the front piece of my joggers, so that is the front crotch right there, and this is the curve that it has for the pocket. Now this instructs just to serge the edge and fold under. It did recommend fusing a strip of fusible stay tape. I don't want to do that because that will make the seam stiff, and then how am I going to turn under to be able to sew? The other thing is this fabric is really thick. It's really thick. I think I can get away with just folding and sewing. If it had been thinner, I would have devised another method, probably binding or some other way to not just fold it under. I'm not really a fan of this method, but for this fabric I think I could get away with it. So I've done that on both of the fronts there. And I'm going to sew this down with a twin needle. I think not having a cover stitch or anything, I think it's going to give a look that I like aesthetically, the double row of stitching, and that also stretches. I don't really like a zigzag stitch, and a straight stitch wouldn't work either. So that's what I'm doing. This little curve has only been folded under 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to do like a narrow stitch. I'm going to guide the edge of the fabric on the edge of the presser foot when I put it down, and I lengthen my stitch to 3.5 and I just go slow. gonna pull out these little basting stitches here. That's how that looks. It's a little bit wavy. I think just giving it a good steam will sort that out. It does stretch. Twin needle stitch does stretch because on the back there's a sort of zigzag stitch going on. So it is one that will stretch and allow you to put your hands inside and everything. And that's how that double row of stitching looks. I'm gonna give them a press, just some steam on them. And they look much better. So all that waviness I had seen before has sort of disappeared and they look nice and smooth. They'll stretch. You know, I think these pockets can be really fragile. They look pretty, but putting your hand in and out, I think eventually will finish stretching these out. I'm not a pocket user. I'm not going to put things in my pockets, and if they look pretty like that, I can cope with it. If I really wanted to use the pockets, I would definitely do some sort of other finish here, like binding, something else that would give this area more structure, you know? The way to assemble this pocket is to get the pocket piece and serge the curved area right there, not the straight one. This is the part that goes on the hip. This is the right side of the fabric of the pocket. This is the right side of the leg. So you would slide the pocket underneath and that will complete the front hip area there, you can see. So once that's positioned properly there, from the other side, this needs to be attached on with pins or something, so all the way around so that the pocket is secure. And then you get to top stitch this down as well with whatever method you prefer. I'm going to be also using the twin needle to stitch that down, and that will give you a pocket but without any flapping around or extra layers in there. So I think that's practical, especially for the type of pocket that I want, that is more for show than for actually putting things in there. So I'm just going to line these up properly, and I like to hand baste it. Just a few hand basting, takes no time at all to put this in place where it should, and then sew that curve with the twin needle. This is the wrong side of the pants looking up to us, wrong side of the pocket, wrong side of the pants. You can see the serged edge right there, and I have gone and hand basted it down. You can see the green thread go right next to the overlocker right there. I've gone ahead and basted the hips together just to help me for future, same as there on the top. That can be done by machine, but while I was hand basting, I might as well done that too. The green stitching on the right side of the leg, I flipped it, will be my guide to sew the twin needling super nice and follow that curve like that. I can tell you this fabric is turning out really difficult to sew. Every time the needle goes in, it's like struggling to get through. It's so thick. So the first pocket I sewed, I had a really hard time with the needle going in and out and the fabric trying to stretch and the needle getting stuck in the fabric. It's so thick. I put a piece of paper, regular piece of paper behind it, just following the curve, so there's paper all the way up to there. And now I just have to rip this paper off super carefully. And I had a much better experience sewing this. The stitches are neater. I think I was able to sew a bit straighter. So paper works when you're desperate, totally. I've just pressed these seams, thrown a lot of steam on them. They're lying nice and flat. You can see the double row of twin needling there. Looks neat now. Wasn't easy to do. This was the first one I did. This was the second one that I put paper behind. It was so much better. And I think this one is much better than the other one. I didn't plan to resort to paper on this one as well, because you've already seen me use paper on my sons. So I have my son's long pair of joggers right here. I chose this amazing activewear fabric. It's suplex, a mix of polyamide with stuff. I'll try to find the composition and put it down in the description box. It's really hard to describe activewear fabric, but it's very similar to the one, if not the same, to the one I used for his hats and pants, only this is plain black. And you can see the waistband there with the casing and the top stitching on the elastic to hold it in place. The construction of the joggers was pretty much the same as what I've shown you in the previous video featuring joggers, so I didn't film that. I just filmed the pockets because that was different. There are two buttonholes there to thread the cording through. I only had this gray one. When I purchase black, I'm gonna swap this out because I think a black one would look nicer, you know. And I have the zipper pocket right there. Now, this fabric I used for the inside here is leftover from a dress you might have seen in a tutorial, Simplicity 8548, where I showed how to do a V-neck band and the construction of a whole dress. I'm just letting you know there is a video out there about that, so if you want to see, you can see that. But there was fabric left for this and I did that. And he thinks it's cool, you know, he doesn't mind, it's not going to be seen. This other pocket was the one I used wonder tape to place the zipper behind it. And while the process of using the wonder tape to center the zipper was super fiddly, I found that once I got it right, it was really stuck there. And when I was sewing, it was really stuck, like there was no fabric wanting to move everywhere. So on the inside, you can see this piece. Now remember, I used 2 layers of the rayon spandex just to make it thicker. Rayon spandex in a pocket is not going to give you much support or structure because it's not that thick, it's pretty thin. But using 2 of them accomplished 2 goals. One was to make it structured and one was to have it look pretty on the inside as well. Otherwise this would just be white, you know, because this rayon spandex on the wrong side was white, and it fits a phone perfectly. These are his shorts, iron shorts that I made with a stretch fabric. It's a knit that looks like denim. It looks just like denim, and he wanted them a tad longer. Just 1 pocket on the right hip he wanted. I used the wonder tape for that. You can see the piece of the wonder tape left over. I have been assured it comes off in the wash, so that's why you can still see that, because this is freshly made, you know. Here you can see the little piece of fabric that I used to cover the zipper stop. And I think it's really nice because or else you'd have this ugly, you know, metal thing in there. There you go. A nice little extra thing to add to this to make it look nicer and just look more professional, you know. Nothing different about these except that they don't have a drawstring because I ran out. Used the elastic I had measured for these ones and just made it a little bit tighter, made him try it on. And he feels that this is secure enough for him to wear without having to like tighten it up. So those are my sons. Great success. He loves them. I haven't let him wear them yet because I didn't want them to get dirty, but he loves them. He's tried them on, worn them around the house. These are mine, my Brassie joggers, the one you would have seen in the video when I was making the pockets there. The pockets look really pretty, like they're pretty pockets. They're totally my style aesthetically. They're flat, they don't give you any bulk at the hips or the leg whatsoever. So I'm a fan of the look of these pockets. I do think this type of pocket could be weaker than other types of pockets because it's just the one layer that is sewn onto the leg from the inside, as you can see how I've done that in the video. So, you know, you put your hands in here and there's just this twin needling there holding it, you know. I think it could be fragile and could be a bit weak, but I don't really care about that because I want pockets for looks. I don't want them for like practical reasons because I don't put things in pockets, but they are a pretty pocket, I think. I put my waistband on as usual. I've got the elastic in there. I've top stitched everything down, but I don't need a drawstring. I do not need a drawstring at all. Now, if you're someone that does wear a belt with pants, that you feel secure, that you need something to keep everything there, I think you might want to do the drawstring. I don't do that, so I didn't do it, you know. And then the rest is just your typical, you know, leg and a cuff. Super easy to sew up and make. And I've made a black pair. I have it on right now, but I'm going to show you how they fit. Here you can see the black pair that I've made. It's the same as the grey pair, the same length, the same cuff. You can see the fit there. It's slimmer fitting on the legs, I find, to the other joggers I made, the Hudson pants. And this is the length that I like, considering I shortened the capri length by 2 inches. Now, one difference that these have is that they have no pockets. As you can see, I totally skipped them. My priority was getting Martin's joggers to fit on the fabric, and then I placed my fabric, which took less because it's shorter, and I didn't have the piece to complete the hip part there, so they don't have pockets. And you know, I don't mind. Here you can see this pair is the same fit. You know, this fabric is amazing, super comfortable, super stretchy, but thickish at the same time. And I really like this length for joggers for myself. I really wouldn't enjoy an ankle length jogger. I think this is the length for me. This is the first pair I made, the ones I showed you how to put on the pocket. You can see how pretty this pocket is and how it doesn't make bulk anywhere. And I can put my hands in there, but I definitely would not be putting things in here for sure. I want to protect these seams. They're just twin needled. So I think this pocket is more for show. And I didn't want to do the zipper one. That would be more sturdy, you know. The waistband with the elastic. As you can see, I'm really happy with these. I am extremely happy with these. They fit really well, they feel good, they were fun to make. And even though this pocket I made for myself might not be the sturdiest, I think it's the prettiest and easiest to sew. Although I had to use a bit of paper, you know, that's okay, paper's your friend. My son really wants more shorts and more of these, so I have to source more fabric. Anyway, I am super happy I tried this pattern company, and if you like this pattern and want to give it a go, I have an affiliate link down in the description box. And as always, if you purchase from there at no cost to you, I receive a small commission from that sale. I hope you give paper a go. It can save you, believe me. And it doesn't have to be fancy tissue paper or anything. I just grabbed whatever paper I could find and went for it. You know, it gives you precision, and it also helps you sew fabric you're having a hard time with. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you very soon with another sewing video. Happy sewing, bye!